Hello, Java Challenger. We are here again in the Java Career Boost series, and I'm here with Jefferson. So, Jefferson told me his career challenges, his career trajectory, and now I'm going to provide him the guidance on what to do in his career. Hello, Jefferson. How are you?
I'm fine. And you have
Very good. Thank you so much. Like I said, Jefferson exposed some of his career challenges. And the first challenge Jefferson has is the problem of clarity. And I'm pretty sure that you, Java Challenger, might be going through the same career challenge. To have clarity nowadays, not easy because we have so many career paths that we get confused. So, a tip, one thing we must do from time to time is to stop and think and write down what are your next career steps. Because if you don't do that, if you don't stop and think about it, what's going to happen is that you're going to be stuck in your job cycle, in your routine cycle, and it's going to be impossible to break this cycle. Ideally, you should stop, breathe, and write down, okay, what makes sense for my next career steps? What I recommend you is to write down about your personal, professional, and financial goals. So if you know those three elements, then you can make a better decision for your next career steps. And you don't need to plan your whole career because sometimes if it's difficult to plan your next step, imagine to plan 5 or 10 years ahead. So if you lack clarity right now, it's important to define at least the next steps. Make it easy because if you try to make very complicated, what might happen is that you might get overwhelmed and you might not take action at all. So there is a quote. I don't remember exactly what is the quote, but it's from a book where there was, I think, a person in a horse, and this person was confused because there was a fog and this person didn't know where to go. And then he asked someone else, and then he said, "Hey, I'm confused. I don't know where I'm going, where I need to go." And then the other person said, "Can you see at least the next step you can go?" And then the person in the horse says, "Yes, I can see it." So go to this place because once you are there, you're going to have enough clarity to take your next step. So I think this story is very powerful because it removes so much of the anxiety we have because we think we need to have all planned, all figure it out. But sometimes it's difficult. I know that the big companies, they can plan 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, but it takes a while until you get to that level of planning, right? Ideally, we have to start small, right? Plan at least your next career step, decide, focus on that, and see how it goes and make it happen, obviously. So, my suggestion to you, Jefferson, is to write down your personal goals, professional, and financial goals. So, you need to know also how much you want to earn in your next job, for example, and you need to know your professional goals. So, you told me that you want to go back on code. So, that's something very important to consider on your next challenge. And also your personal goals. Like you just had a baby, so you need to think about that as well. So if you write down about those three elements that are so important for your life, definitely to help you to have more. And again, doesn't need to be super complicated plan, just something to get you going to the next career step. So you have enough clarity to achieve those goals. Make sense?
yes, makes sense.
Yeah. So the next challenge you mentioned is that it's difficult to pass interviews where they ask algorithms and system design as well. So unfortunately, the only way to pass on those interviews is to practice by ourselves because we won't have experience with algorithms in our day-to-day job, like even less if you're an architect. You never use algorithms on your day-to-day job. The only way to pass on those interviews is to sacrifice your free time and study. Or this is something I defend because as software developers, you have to be learning constantly. I defend possibility of studying on your work time because we need to be studying, right? And the more you study technical stuff on your work time, the better you're gonna get as a software engineer. So I don't see a problem. It's an investment in you for your job and for your career. So the only way to overcome the challenge of passing in the algorithms and system design interview is by practicing yourself. So you have to go through HackerRank or LeetCode, have to solve the code challenges, get used to it, because the more code challenges you do, the more algorithms you do, the more your brain will fixate the concepts. So when we are learning, our brains are always looking for patterns, right? And in algorithms, you're going to see lots of the same patterns. Like many algorithms are going to solve in the same way. And what happens is that the more algorithms you solve, you're going to be quicker to identify the pattern. You're going to read the problem. You're going to be able to notice very quickly, okay, this is a pattern. I'm going to solve this challenge. And other than that, you need to understand about the structures, the basic searching algorithms, and you need to know about graphs, big O notation, and obviously you need to also practice writing the algorithm, being able to explain your thought process. Because in every interview, they're gonna be asking, they want to know your thought process. They want to know if your code is clean, and they want to see your problem solving skills. The thing is that you can only show that you're a good problem solver if you practiced algorithms. If you didn't, it doesn't really matter. It's very difficult to pass in those interviews if you don't sacrifice your free time to learn them and to practice them.
Yeah,
Make sense?
yes, about this, I think I think in moments and in my consulting solution for companies, I talk a lot about the platform engineer and the context switch and the cognitive load in my current work as architect. It's mostly it's have a constant meeting different subjects, stacks, technologies, and business problem in day. And when you try to study complex subject problems after work or in the weekend, it's usage. I think it's don't have a many time because you like when I study in the university, I have a main time and the free mind for the writing algorithm. It's very simple in the past. But the moment we have a 1 hour for the study, it's a 1 hour, 2 hours. You think a train the baby, the wife, the house. It's a very problem, and you exhausted too. It's a problem for the your plan. Or I think 1 day, 2 day, 1 week, 2 week. You it's a possible. But when I have a constantly the main time for study, it's a problem. And like you talk about, yeah, you're don't using uh, patterns, algorithms, techniques in the your daily routines. It's very difficult.
Yeah, so that's why I defend the idea that you can use the time from your 9 to 5 job, right? Otherwise, like you said, you have family, you have a baby, it's difficult to manage time like that. The other suggestion I give to you is to use Pomodoro. So use a 25 minutes Pomodoro. If that's too much, use at least 5 minutes Pomodoro and try those algorithms. Or you can also use the technique of paying yourself first. What do I mean by that? I mean, that the idea is to focus on your career first, then your job. How can you do that? You can do that by before starting your job, you do your studies for your career.
Yes. I start in the moment, I think, last week. I using sometimes Pomodoro because when without a Pomodoro, it's very common you are reserve 1 hour for study, 1 hour for the problem, and it's last of day. I think night it's 11 p.m. It's start 1 hour, and you see the problem are 1 hour, 2, 3 hours for the work or the I stop the easy, and you see the my another days or results or example. I think it's a Pomodoro. It's a resolve. It's a part of the problem because you are have a constant time. I think I think small steps, small in your days, more it's more effective. You are using the 3 hours or 1 day weekend because they have many other things. Pomodoro are very good because of this, and I using recently.
Perfect. Yeah, Pomodoro is excellent because it helps you to be focused and it also tracks down how much time you've been dedicating to your career. And nowadays, it's so easy to get distracted with notifications. Our phones are always sending us notifications. And the good thing about Pomodoro as well is the 5 minutes break. So you work intensively for 25 minutes, and then you have the 5 minutes break. Then you can take some rest and then start another Pomodoro. So this is a very good habit to have because I assure you that 3 hours Pomodoro is much more powerful than 8 hours of non-focused work. So Pomodoro is also a very powerful tool to optimize time.
You're right, and okay, come to
So yeah, we can save so much time because 3 hours of focused work is extremely powerful. You can do so much. And the quality of your work is much higher as well. Because if we are doing work without Pomodoro and without focus, we tend to slack off and do random things, right? We tend to let me check here the news or let me check this cool article or oh, let me check this cool video or oh, let me check the notification who is sending a message to me and so on. Like it's so nowadays we have access to so much information that it's very easy to get distracted. Very easy. But with Pomodoro, you start the timer and you do intensive work for 25 minutes. And the other thing is that usually the limit of Pomodoros a day we can do is 10 Pomodoros. More than that, we tend to procrastinate in the following days because the focus you use when you do the work with Pomodoro is so intense that more than 10 Pomodoros is like, it's too much. Like for the long term, right? Because, for example, if you want to do 10 Pomodoros every day, at least from Monday to Friday, and be consistent on that, if you say, hey, today I'm going to do 15 Pomodoros, you can do it. Okay. But in the following day, it's going to be difficult to keep up because you're going to say, oh my God, how many Pomodoros am I going to do today? 15 again? Oh no, I'm overwhelmed already. No, I don't want to do that. So sometimes it's better to take it easier. Like 10 Pomodoros is not easy at all, right? But if you're just starting doing the Pomodoros, start small and with time you build up and your productivity will increase massively. The other challenge you mentioned is imposter syndrome. And this one is difficult because I'm pretty sure that even James Gosling has this issue, right? Even the father of Java, I think even him has this problem of having imposter syndrome because really there's so much for everyone, right? I believe that one of the things we can do is to adopt the Pareto principle, which is basically to learn the 20% of technologies that we need to use on our day to day job to solve the 80% of the problems. So that reduces dramatically the time we need to study technologies, right? And the other thing is to focus more on fundamentals rather than the tools. Because if you master fundamentals like object oriented programming or functional programming, if you go to another programming language, it's going to be much easier to master. And for example, if you are designing a system, it's more valuable to understand the fundamentals because then it's much easier, for example, to move from one cloud provider to the other. Imposter syndrome, unfortunately, is something that we all will have at a certain point. But the thing is that we can't allow that to control us. I think there is a fine line, right? Like to be very confident is a problem, but to have low confidence is a problem as well. Because if you're very confident, usually developers they become very arrogant, they don't accept others' ideas. And the problem of having low confidence is that, for example, you won't even discuss your ideas with other developers because of low confidence. Ideally, I know that's not easy, is to have a balance of being little confident, sometimes not so confident, being at the balance, at this fine line of at the same time you know a lot, be humble, right? Understand that you never know everything. No one will ever have all the knowledge about technologies. It's impossible. So, because at the moment we think we know everything, we are going to become obsolete. So that's a danger. So there will be never this time or day where we will know everything. So one quote I take from my life is to never stop learning. And this is even more true when we are working as software developers, right? So we need to be always studying. We don't need to study like crazy, like 3, 5 hours a day.
One point about this is I think it's hard to get your arguments in environments where you don't have a freedom or confidence like you talk. And when the position is up, it's a difficult. So you need to prove about your knowledge. It's difficult to have a space of confidence like you talk. Don't a conscience. I think you don't that you end up not trusting without realizing it, I think. And about this topic for a while and my life. And when you have people with a position above you or mentors, I think, if, for example, it's easy for you to know your level with the feedback about the people. I think but when you grow your career and losing the references, it's a create a lot of thinking kind of frustration because I don't have the reference. I think the humans assert and self based on the opinion of the others. I think. And it's difficult for you gain maturity for this don't depend this, I think. And on the point I think he help you with a mentor, for example, you because it's more it's okay, it's the Pareto example, it's your knowledge, your learn about this is okay. Don't have a problem.
Yeah. And the Pareto example is very valuable nowadays because in our day to day tasks, it's very common that you're going to get a problem that you never seen before. So by having the mindset of Pareto is kind of accepting that we can even use the just in time learning technique. This is very useful nowadays because, like I said, it's very common that in in our sprints, we're going to get a story that we have no idea how to solve the problem, but then we have to learn some important things about the concept and solve the problem using a just-in-time learning technique. And so I know that maybe there will be never a solution, like a full solution for overcoming imposter syndrome. I think the reality is that we have to live with it. Who says that? Oh, I'm not. I'm totally free of from that. It's very hard. That like even the very best developer in the world, like even the I don't know whoever, they will feel a little bit of this imposter syndrome because it's too much. Like even only in IT, it's a notion of technologies. Only IT, right? Only the Java ecosystem is incredibly huge. This is something that we need to deal with, but always keeping the balance, like not allowing that to control how we react to situations or to control, for example, our mind in such a level that we don't apply to other jobs and where it blocks our biggest career dreams as software developers, for example. Yeah, and the other challenge you mentioned is that new tools are showing up every day. And yeah, I think this is connected to the imposter syndrome because yeah, like it's overwhelming. Like every day there's something new showing up. And one thing we can do regarding that is to have the foundation, the fundamental knowledge well fixed in our minds. Because if we think about those tools, all of them implement the fundamentals. If you think about Java, Java just is just implementing object-oriented programming, functional programming, data structures, algorithms, sorting algorithms, graphs. It's all there. And it's the same in any programming language. And if you see frameworks, you're going to notice that many of the frameworks, they apply design patterns. So if you see the Spring code or Jakarta code, you're going to see lots of design patterns there. Or if you see Java libraries, you're going to see lots of design patterns as well. If you learn those fundamentals, you're going to see it everywhere. And you're going to notice that it's all tools that were designed based on the fundamentals. It's going to be always like that. So that's why it's a good idea. I know it's more difficult to master fundamentals rather than mastering tools because tools, you go to an article and you see, hey, how can I do this thing here? You get the code and then there you go. But to learn the fundamentals takes more time. It's more difficult. But once you know here the base, the foundation, like a tool is just a tool. A new programming language is just a new programming language. A new cloud provider is just a tool to deploy your service there. A container is just a tool to containerize your application and deploy anywhere you want. So a monitoring tool is just a tool to debug your microservices, to check if your services are up and running, to check if there is any issue in the network. So tools become only tools. I know that this is easier said than done because mastering fundamentals is hard work. And to master the fundamentals, we also need to manage time, which is something very challenging because family, we work a lot. So the only way to tackle this issue of having too many tools is to go back to the fundamentals. And other than that is to be consistent on your learning. Pay yourself first. When? In the morning. First thing, before you start your 9 to 5 job, you study, even if it is 5 minutes. Like 5 minutes, I'm fully sure you can do it. Then you study 5 minutes and you practice creating this discipline muscle. And you make a deal with you that if you want to work only 5 minutes, it's okay. But if you start the 5 minutes and if you want to continue, then continue. Sometimes you need to force yourself to do the work. This is the meaning of discipline. Mike Tyson said the meaning of discipline very well. I liked his quote. He basically says that discipline is the ability of doing something you hate, but doing that as you love. So I know that there will be days that it's gonna be really difficult. There will be days that you have to do it even in the days that you don't feel like it. That's very difficult because then you're not only facing the problem of time management, you are facing your mind. That's the biggest enemy. Most difficult, like overcoming yourself is the most difficult challenge you ever face. And sometimes you have to fight yourself and say, hey, I know I don't want to do that. It really sucks, but I will do it. Alternatively, you can find something that you enjoy, right? Because even if you find something you enjoy, motivation will die. Motivation only helps you to get you started. What will keep you going is the discipline. And obviously, like the results you are having in the process also motivates you. But sometimes it takes a while until you see results that are meaningful. Sometimes you just need to trust the process, keep doing the work until you get to your big picture goals. You don't need to study a lot of time, but at least 5 minutes a day from Monday to Friday. You can start small, see how it goes. Ideally, it's even better if you plan your week. If that's too much, it's okay. You can plan your day. You can say, hey, today I'm going to study algorithms. Okay, 5 minutes. Make sense?
Yes, it's I have a experience because in the moment I when I study that when I play I have 1 hour for this, 2 hours for other example, and you first day is okay, I can. Second day they have a problem, they have a personal problem, the family, it's I don't know. There's the it's a don't and you I don't know I don't care. You talk about the I 5 minutes. It's I don't start this. It's have a trick tips about you. Thank you for try it's in my nowadays because it's a problem. My plan it's a 1 hour for each things. It's a very difficult for me, and I balance in the first activity all day and the final activity of our day, and it's I my mind it's you need now you need this now. It's a problem. I think it's a discipline with the 5 minutes. I don't try, but it's about your talking this I using my day.
Yeah, only 5 minutes. If you feel okay to continue, continue. If not, you stop. You just complete the 5 minutes to keep the consistency. And then it's much easier to force yourself to the 5 minutes because for sure there will be days that you won't feel like it doing the work. But I'm pretty sure that if you tell to yourself, hey, it's 5 minutes, come on, 5 minutes. I'm pretty sure you can do it. 5 minutes, you can do it. Definitely.
Make sense.
Definitely. And then by doing that, what's going to happen is that your confidence will grow and you're going to start developing your discipline muscle. Because discipline is not something you are born with, it's something you develop. And how you develop that? Starting small. And to face yourself for a 5 minutes work is much easier than if you tell yourself, and if you try to face yourself and say, hey, 1 hour work, come on, then it's very likely that your emotions will take over, and if you're gonna feel anxiety and you want to do the work because if you're gonna feel overwhelmed and you're gonna procrastinate.
Mhm. This problem I don't think about this, but more makes sense your flip. Your tip is very well.
Very good. So you also talked about focus. Focus is an issue. Yeah. So I want to tell you my perspective of the market nowadays. My perspective is that we need to be more generalists. We need to be more of a problem solver, software engineers, rather than specialists. But there's always the other side, right? If there are two sides here. If you choose to be a specialist, if you choose to be a generalist, you're gonna have a lot more jobs to choose, and you're gonna never be unemployed. But because you're a generalist, you're gonna be competing with a lot of developers. That doesn't mean necessarily that your salary will be low, because your salary can be very good, especially if you're working abroad for the US or for Europe. Your salary can be very good, but still, you're competing with a lot of developers. There is the other side of being a specialist. And when I say specialist, it doesn't mean that you're going to know only one thing very well and you're going to forget about everything else. No. Here, you're still kind of generalist. You know about the basics, you know about software architecture, you know about microservices, you know about Java, you know about infrastructure, you know the basics. But you choose something very niched. And if you become a specialist in this niche, you're going to have fewer options, right? Let's make here a comparison. Like it's difficult to make this comparison, but just to make it more clear. So a generalist would have, I don't know, maybe 50 companies to choose. A specialist would have something around 5 companies to choose. Obviously, I'm talking proportionally, right? Because, there are lots of companies around the world. But the thing is that if you're a specialist, your salary will be much higher. And if you are a specialist, that's the company's need. Sometimes you can even choose your salary, which is pretty good, right? So obviously, by being a specialist, you're gonna earn a lot more, but you're gonna have fewer options. It's definitely a next step, right? It's something to consider. There are so many things to be a specialist. You can choose to be a specialist on scaling microservices, or to be a specialist in AWS services, or to be a specialist in security, or you could be a specialist in Kubernetes, for example. You could be the one who knows absolutely everything about Kubernetes. So there are many niches to be a specialist, but like I said, the more specialist you are, the less options you have. So it's a trade off. Obviously, everything is a trade off, but your salary is much higher as well.
It's
So go ahead.
about this, I think the job is based in tasks. If your job is based on single task, I read and list the speaker about this. And it's a basically one single task is a driver. It's one day be automated. And like a programming, it's a specialist for the programming, but don't a specific problem. One day, the example, you're take your call the LLM, talk about the control on Spring Boot. It's okay, it's a writing for you because a simple problem, it's a common knowledge. But when they talk about your specialist, you're a niche. I think you talk about this is a type of specialist. Don't make a sense of like ever. When I talk about the software engineer, it's maybe having a niche like distribute system, high scale the problems functional problem example, because it but continues to be a good or regular as a generic React to other type of problems, but on niche, it's like a microservice and Kubernetes and the high scalable solutions. I think, okay, when I talk about the specialist, I like you take example. I think it more sense.
Yes. And the other challenge you want to overcome is to work for a company abroad. So currently, what's preventing you to achieve this goal?
I think the language is a broker, então I did because of this, I needed learning and the more expose and more experience with the talk and like this, and the other people and the other meets and the training. And if it, I think more experience. Eu ainda talk about the in Brazilian, it's a wow, it's a USA that thing solutions are more experience or more perfect solution. Example, my experience recently, it's a don't it's a trash because you use solution it's equal the other counts, but in the past which block my mind, it's I don't know participate or you no no, a moment. I need to learn a bit more about this. It's the moment it's a block for me. I don't prepare. I am tomorrow. The next month I need I feel more prepared for apply exam. It's the problem.
Yes, but the first thing is that you need to do English courses consistently, and that should pay off, right? Because English you won't only use for your job, but you use it for when you're traveling, for example. So it's very useful when you go to the US or when you go to Europe, you communicate in English. So this is very useful. It's the business language, basically. So it's something definitely worth it to invest your money, and that will open doors as well. So like if you work abroad, your salary is much higher, and the pressure to get to work done is less than in Brazil. Currently, how many English classes are you doing weekly?
I start with 3, and the last week I can 1 hour. It's a very problem because I think a constants like you talked about this all days, 4 days, 3 days. The first week, second week, I have a problem, and it's a problem. I need more constants, and I think starting it's less time and increment more about this. I think it is.
Yeah, and the other thing I recommend you is to start applying for jobs and seeing how are the interviews, because even if your English is not perfect right now, your skills will balance. Will have a good balance with that. And you don't need to have a perfect English as well. Your technical skills are highly valuable as well. So because you have a lot of experience, like even if you don't have the best English, you have a chance to pass on those interviews. But at the same time, you can't stop learning English. You have to be consistent. And also, you have to create habits of listening to podcasts in English, audiobooks in English. You have to change your operation system to English, your phone to English, everything to English. And then you're going to get used to it. So you have to think of ways to be consistent. Like, have to think of actions you can take to make your consistency, make your actions possible. Like, what can make your English classes more fun, or what can make your English classes more consistent, right? So, what will motivate you? So, maybe it's the class structure, or maybe you have to have this English class in person. Maybe that would motivate you more. Anything you have to consider what exactly motivates you to keep doing that consistently. Because yeah, and during interviews, you can start doing it, and it's also going to be valuable to you to have this experience because you have to know how it works, and you will only know if you do the interviews. And regarding your dream of being a writer and speaker, you can start small as well. You can start writing articles. Like even if you deliver one article a month, that's better than zero.
Yeah,
So
good.
you can
Just
start
like before.
small. Yeah, you can start small and create one article a month about something you enjoy, and then you get started. You don't need to wait for the future. You can start now delivering one article a month. Obviously, your primary focus is to get better in English, get a job abroad. But in this meantime, you can also write articles in English that will help you, that you align with your goal of being better with English. You're gonna write your article in English, and that will be all aligned. Then it's gonna be easier for you to get a job abroad because you're gonna increase your visibility. It's gonna also help you to become a writer, and by writing in English, it will also open doors to the world, not only to countries where people speak in Portuguese. And to be a speaker, you can get started. There's nothing what prevents you to be a speaker.
I think it's about focus again.
What motivates you the most regarding technology or your day-to-day job?
My day job, it's using the GenAI for developer cycle. Because it is the start, it's like talking event storming. What I break the system context to your testing BDD with like a agent. But AI, it's a more generic. It's a more the moment. It's more like a business word.
Trendy,
Yeah, trend.
trendy.
Yes, and I think I don't like I like a trend because I don't know I think I passed in the three experience in the past. We did the Arduino and study, but I don't get the money. I don't have a project. I was acted uh, at it. I don't know about this. I work and study in my in MBA, big data science. But that the time is that trend. Don't like a trend because I have a problem with this. How I talked the another episode, but I think don't consolidate, I think. When they talk about Java, consolidates. I have a 20 years because of this I get a niche and my strong skill it's Java and I get the strong in the example. My topic it's about it how I use in the Java or I developer system like a modern way in the moment we use in GenAI example. I don't know, but I learn or I try this like a topic like this, but I don't know in the moment. But because of this, I talk about one time this other time another thing. It's a for me it's a audience completely different, and I get the what the audience for me it's a strong topic for the sequence. I don't know in the moment.
So, what could you mix Java with to be more focused?
I think about using Java with a distributed system like Spark or microservice. I don't using Spark in data, né? Data architect for example, and using microservice for architect software architect of software application. And like I using Istio with for service mesh, I using for the like how I using the best traits for the PI testing, design of API example. About this I using Java for the distributed system like MongoDB or Cassandra or DynamoDB, like pros about the systems. I don't know. Example, my experience in Kafka is very strong. I use Kafka for 3, 4 years, hard user Kafka. And but I don't know consistency one topic. About this, the moment I don't know. Like I work in the many type of projects, and I don't know what the type of project I like a talk. I love talk or prepare material. What my audience, my public, I don't know.
Yeah, so there will be audience for any of those technologies. The thing is that you need to choose what are technologies that motivate you the most. So is it Spark? Is it Kafka? Is it event storming? I think this is highly valuable, by the way. Like I started to break down a whole system using this methodology. I think that has a huge value. But obviously it has to be something you also like to do, because it's not only about your audience, it's about you as well. So it's a balance. Because if you're not happy with what you're sharing, like if only your audience is happy, you won't be consistent. So it's a balance. Like what would you be happy to share and
Okay.
what your audience would be happy to listen for you as well. So if you had to decide now, what would you choose?
Yes, in the moment I think about this and I don't have a consistency about the topic. I don't know. And you have a share because this is a more generic topic. Is a why how you developer example your modern way using Java example for the boot system. I don't know. And you need this, you need to Kafka, you need this, oh, this problem. It's I in the past I interview many things, many people in my career. And example, your CRUD, how anymore when they talk, yeah, okay, it's a but when I have a scale the application, when I have a scale the database, the people don't have the knowledge about this problem when because it's a niche. You need work with the niche for you get experience because I work my life even with a developer code, you don't have experience like that type of problem. And because of this, I get about the problem, about the techniques, about the moment. I can because the moments are change. Example, I use GenAI about have a change about your way of the develop because it is but the moment you have a many tools about the AI for your work, it's a problem because it's a difficult your define our topic.
Yeah. Well, I think there's no problem to be generic in the beginning.
Okay.
Like, eh, the most important thing is to get started, to give talks, even if it's something generic, but still valuable. What you told me about how to create Java application, modern Java application, this is highly valuable. And if you don't know your focus right now, why not starting with generic content? It's totally fine. As long as it's development content, as long as it is Java, it's okay. Like the more content you create, the more talks you give, the more clarity you're gonna have to understand what's exactly your focus. I know that it's kind of difficult to find your focus, and your focus will change from time to time. But I wouldn't create this barrier that you have to have a focus, and if you don't have a focus, you can't give a talk. I would start giving the talks, submitting talks for conferences, and give the talk, fill the audience, and then on your way, you think about the focus. You don't need to have a perfect focus. The focus is just something for you to keep going. It's just something for you to have path. But doesn't mean that you have to start with the perfect focus. Because the talk you just told me, it's valuable already. Makes sense?
Makes sense very well. Thank you for teaching again.
Very good. So that's pretty much it for your challenges, Jefferson. Thank you so much for sharing them with me and with the Java Challengers audience. pretty much sure that you Java Challenger are also going through some of those challenges. So I hope I could guide you as well in your career. So thank you so much, Jefferson, again for sharing your challenges, and I'll see you in the next video to so that you can ask me any questions you have.
Thank you very much. See you again in the next video.
Okay, see you. Thank you so much. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye bye.